I sat in the corner booth at Bellini's, the Italian place 3 blocks from his office building. My laptop was open but I wasn't working. I was watching. Through the window, I had a perfect view of the glass tower that housed StratAI Technologies, the company I'd spent 12 years building. The company I'd been voted out of exactly 63 days ago. My phone buzzed. Another text from David. Stop being vindictive. The lawyers say you have no case. Just take the settlement and move on. I smiled and set the phone face down on the table. He had no idea what was coming. None of them did. Let me back up. 12 years ago, I met David Chen at a tech conference in Austin. I was 28, a newly minted MBA with a concentration in finance and a job offer from Goldman Sachs that I was seriously considering. He was 31, a software engineer with big ideas and bigger dreams. We got coffee after his panel on AI in healthcare. 3 hours later, we were still talking. A year later, we were married. 2 years after that, we'd launched StratAI from our studio apartment in Palo Alto. The idea was an AI platform that could analyze medical imaging faster and more accurately than human radiologists. The execution, that was both of us. But while David coded and pitched to investors, I built everything else. I structured the company, negotiated our seed round, hired our first 20 employees, managed the burn rate, secured partnerships with 3 major hospital systems, and somehow kept us from going bankrupt in year 2 when our lead investor pulled out. By year 5, we had 70 employees and $50 million in revenue. By year 8, $200 million. David was the CEO, the face of the company. I was the CFO, the one who made sure we actually had a company to put a face on. I loved him. I loved the work. I loved what we were building together. I should have seen the signs. It started small. David began taking meetings without me. Investor stuff, he'd say, just relationship building. You don't need to be there. Then came the new COO, Melissa Hartman, who David insisted we needed to scale effectively. She was 32, Stanford MBA, impeccable credentials. I didn't object. We did need operational help. What I didn't know was that David had been sleeping with her for 6 months before she even joined the company. I found out the same week I learned we were being pushed toward an IPO. $800 million valuation. The board was ecstatic. David was ecstatic. I should have been ecstatic. Instead, I was sitting in a conference room watching David and Melissa exchange glances across the table while our lead investor, Richard Paulson, told me I was no longer the right fit for the executive team. You've done incredible work, Vanessa, Richard said, not meeting my eyes. But as we move toward becoming a public company, we need a CFO with public company experience, someone who's taken a company through an IPO before. I've been preparing for this for 3 years, I said, keeping my voice level. I've been working with consultants. I've restructured our entire financial reporting system for SOX compliance. It's not personal, David interrupted. My husband, the man I'd built this company with. The board has made their decision. We're offering you a generous severance package. And of course, you'll retain your equity. 2%. After 12 years. After clawing my way from 30% ownership down through dilution after dilution that I'd agreed to because it was good for the company, I had 2%. David still had 18%. Melissa, who'd been there all of 8 months, had 3%. This is insane, I said, looking around the table. 5 board members, David, Melissa. Not one of them would look at me. You can't just. Actually, we can, Richard said. You'll see in the documentation. The board has the authority to remove any executive team member with majority vote. It's in the bylaws you signed. The bylaws I'd written, actually. Never thinking they'd be used against me. I wanted to scream. I wanted to flip the table. Instead, I stood up, gathered my things, and walked out. I cried in my car for 20 minutes. Then I drove to my sister's house. Lauren opened the door, took one look at my face and pulled me inside. They fired me, I said. What? David fired you? The board. But David was there. He just sat there and let them. Lauren's expression went dark. That absolute. There's more. I told her about the IPO, the equity, the generous severance that was barely a year's salary. I told her I suspected something was going on between David and Melissa. Suspected? Lauren said. Vanessa, come on. Everyone's been talking about it for months. The room tilted. Everyone? I didn't want to tell you. I thought maybe it was just office gossip, and you had enough stress with the IPO prep. But yeah, Mom mentioned it last month. She heard it from Aunt Carol, who heard it from someone who knows someone on your team. My mother knew. My mother knew my husband was cheating on me and didn't tell me. I need to go home, I said. Do you want me to come with you? No. I just need to think. I drove back to our house in Los Altos Hills. 4 bedrooms, pool, view of the valley. We'd bought it 2 years ago for $3.8 million. The mortgage was in both our names, but I'd made the down payment from the sale of my Goldman stock. David wasn't home. I went to his office, the room he'd converted into his think space, with a desk made from reclaimed wood and a $4,000 ergonomic chair. I wasn't sure what I was looking for. Evidence of the affair, maybe. Something to confirm what I already knew in my gut. What I found was so much worse. His laptop was open, asleep. I tapped the trackpad and it woke up no password because David was brilliant with code but terrible with personal security. His email was open. The first thing I saw was a thread with Melissa from 3 weeks ago. Melissa, did you talk to Richard about the timeline? David. Yes. He agrees we need to move on V before the roadshow. Too risky to have her digging into the books. V, me, David. Once she's out, we can clean up the revenue recognition issues. Adjust the Q2 numbers before the S1 filing. I scrolled up. There were dozens of emails. Hundreds. They'd been planning this for months. The affair was real. There were hotel receipts, restaurant reservations, messages that made me want to throw the laptop through the window. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the fraud. David had been manipulating our revenue numbers. Recording sales before they were finalized. Creating fake invoices from shell companies. Capitalizing expenses that should have been written off. All to inflate our numbers before the IPO. And I, as CFO, would have been the one held responsible if it came out. They weren't just pushing me out because I was no longer the right fit. They were pushing me out because I was the only person in the company who actually understood the financials well enough to catch what David was doing. I took pictures of everything. Every email, every document, every spreadsheet I could find. I uploaded them to an encrypted cloud drive. Then I closed the laptop and sat there in the dark. My husband had cheated on me. He'd conspired with the board to fire me from the company I'd built. He'd committed securities fraud and was planning to let me take the fall if it ever came to light. And my mother had known about the affair and said nothing. I could have called a lawyer right then. I could have gone to the SEC. I could have burned it all down immediately. But I didn't, because I realized something sitting there in David's office. I wasn't angry anymore. I was cold. I was calculating. And I knew exactly what to do. I went upstairs, packed a bag, and drove to a hotel. I texted David that I needed some space and would be staying elsewhere for a few days. He responded immediately, "Okay, I understand. Take all the time you need." I'm sure he was relieved. The next morning, I called my lawyer. Not the company's lawyer, my personal attorney, Marcus Webb, who I'd worked with on estate planning. Marcus, I need a referral. Securities law. Someone aggressive. What's going on? I can't explain yet. But I need the best. And I need them to be discreet. He set me up with a woman named Patricia Morrison, a former SEC enforcement attorney who now worked for a white shoe firm in San Francisco. We met that afternoon. I showed her everything. She was quiet for a long time, scrolling through the documents on her iPad. Finally, she looked up. "This is bad," she said. "This is criminally bad. Your husband could go to prison. Can we stop the IPO? If we report this to the SEC, yes. But it'll take time. They'll need to investigate. And there's something you need to understand: if you're still listed as CFO in any of the company's official documents, you could be implicated." I was removed from the executive team 9 days ago. Officially. With updated corporate filings, I felt my stomach drop. I don't know. Patricia made some calls. It turned out David hadn't bothered to file the paperwork yet. On paper, I was still the chief financial officer of Strat AI Technologies, which meant if this blew up, I was going down with him. Unless. I need to resign, I said. Officially. With documentation. Today. That won't protect you if they claim you knew about the fraud. But I didn't. Can you prove that? I thought about the timeline. The emails showing David and Melissa planning to remove me before she starts digging into the books. The fact that I'd been systematically excluded from meetings for the past 3 months. Yes, I said. I can prove I was deliberately kept out of the loop. Patricia smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Then let's make sure everyone knows it. Over the next 2 weeks, I worked with Patricia to build an airtight case. We documented every meeting I'd been excluded from, every decision made without my input, every email showing David and Melissa coordinating behind my back. We established a clear timeline showing that I'd been frozen out of the financial decision-making process for months before I was officially terminated. Then we resigned, formally, officially, with a resignation letter that Patricia wrote and I signed, stating that I was stepping down due to irreconcilable differences regarding financial reporting practices. We sent it to the board, to David, and to the company's external auditors. We made sure there was a paper trail showing I'd raised concerns about financial irregularities and been pushed out as a result. David called me, panicked. What the hell is this? It's my resignation. You wanted me out, remember? You can't mention financial irregularities in a resignation letter. Do you know what that looks like right before an IPO? I'm just being honest, David. You're trying to sabotage us. No, I'm protecting myself. You've been cooking the books for months, and I'm not going to prison for you. There was a long silence. I don't know what you think you found, he said finally, but you're wrong. Am I? Because I have emails. I have spreadsheets. I have everything, David. Another silence. When he spoke again, his voice was different. Cold. If you try to tank this IPO, I will destroy you. I will make sure you never work in this industry again. I will take the house. I will take everything. You'll get nothing. See, that's where you're wrong, I said. I won't get nothing. I'll get 2% of $800 million. That's $16 million, David. And all I have to do is nothing. Just sit back and watch you commit securities fraud. I hung up. He tried to call back. I didn't answer. That night, I met with someone I'll call Sarah. She wasn't really named Sarah, but that's what we'll use. Sarah was a partner at a venture capital firm that had tried to invest in StratAI during our Series C round. We'd gone with another firm instead, but she'd stayed in touch, always saying there might be opportunities to work together in the future. I'd reached out to her a week earlier, saying I was exploring a new venture and would love to talk. We met at a wine bar in Menlo Park. So, Sarah said, swirling her Cabernet, "You're out at StratAI. You heard. Everyone's heard. David's been telling people you were having personal issues, couldn't handle the pressure of going public." I smiled. Of course he has. That's not what happened, is it? No. I told her everything. The affair, the fraud, the conspiracy to push me out. I showed her the same documents I'd shown Patricia. Sarah's expression didn't change, but her eyes got very, very sharp. "What do you want?" she said. "I want to build something new. Something clean. And I want to do it before StratAI goes public. That's a tall order. I have relationships with every major hospital system we work with. I negotiated those contracts. I own those relationships. Non-compete doesn't apply if I was terminated without cause. And my resignation letter makes it very clear I was pushed out due to irreconcilable differences, which Patricia assures me is grounds to void the non-compete." Sarah leaned back. "You want to poach their clients. I want to offer their clients a better option. StratAI's technology is good, but it's not irreplaceable. I know 3 teams of engineers who've left the company in the past year because they were tired of David's management style. I know exactly what our biggest clients need that we're not providing. And I know how to build it better. How much runway do you need? $20 million to start. I can bootstrap from there. When? Now? We need to move before the IPO closes. Once that money hits, David has resources I can't match." Sarah pulled out her phone and made a call right there at the table. "Bill? It's Sarah. I'm sending you a deck tonight. I need you to read it and get back to me by morning." "Yes, I know it's fast. Trust me, you want to see this." "No, I can't explain on the phone. Just read it." She hung up and looked at me. "You have until tomorrow at noon to build a pitch deck. Make it good." I didn't sleep that night. I built a presentation that outlined everything: the market opportunity, our competitive advantage, the team I could assemble, our go-to-market strategy. I laid out exactly how we could capture 30% of StratAI's customer base within 6 months. I sent it to Sarah at 6 a.m. At 11:45 a.m. she called. "We're in. $25 million. Series A. But we need to move fast. How quickly can you incorporate?" "Today." "Do it." "And Vanessa? Don't tell anyone." "Not yet." I incorporated the new company. I called it Clarity AI that afternoon. I brought in Marcus to handle the legal work. By the end of the week, I had a signed term sheet and a bank account with $25 million in it. Then I started making calls. First, the engineers. 3 senior developers who'd left StratAI in the past year. All of whom I'd personally recruited and worked closely with. All of whom jumped at the chance to work on something new without David's interference. Then, key employees who were still at StratAI but unhappy. I was careful, discreet. I didn't poach actively. I just let it be known that I was building something, and if they were interested, we should talk. Within 3 weeks, I had a team of 12. All people who knew our technology inside and out. All people who were tired of David's leadership. But I didn't contact any clients yet. That would have been too obvious, too aggressive. Instead, I waited. 6 weeks after I'd left StratAI, David filed the S-1 for the IPO. It was public record now, anyone could read it. I did, carefully. The revenue numbers were exactly what I expected. Inflated, manipulated, fraudulent. I sent everything to the SEC. Not personally, Patricia handled it, filing a formal complaint with detailed documentation. She included my resignation letter, the timeline of my exclusion from meetings, the emails showing David and Melissa discussing how to clean up the numbers after I was gone. She made it crystal clear that I had tried to raise concerns and been pushed out as a result. The SEC doesn't move quickly, but when they do move, they move hard. 10 days later, federal agents showed up at StratAI's office with a warrant. They seized documents, computers, servers. They interviewed employees. They froze the IPO. The stock market was supposed to open on StratAI's shares the following Monday. Instead, there was a terse press release. StratAI Technologies has voluntarily withdrawn its IPO filing pending resolution of certain accounting matters. David called me 37 times that day. I didn't answer. He showed up at my hotel room that night. I'd moved hotels twice since leaving our house, precisely because I knew this would happen. The front desk called. "There's a David Chen here to see you. Tell him I'm not available. He's quite insistent. Tell him if he doesn't leave, you'll call the police." He left. The next day, I got a call from Richard Paulson, our lead investor. "Vanessa, we need to talk. I have nothing to say to you. Please, just hear me out." Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him for coffee. He looked terrible. Exhausted, older than I remembered. "You destroyed the company," he said. "No. David destroyed the company. I just made sure everyone knew about it. We lost $800 million in valuation. Our investors are furious. The company might not survive this. That's not my problem. It should be. You spent 12 years building it. And you spent 5 minutes throwing me out of it." Richard was quiet for a long moment. "For what it's worth," he said, "I'm sorry. David convinced us you were. He said you were having issues. Mental health issues. He showed us emails where you'd made mistakes, missed meetings. He made it seem like you were falling apart. And you believed him. We wanted to. The IPO was so close. We wanted to believe that everything would be fine if we just made a change. So you made me the scapegoat." "Yes. And I'm sorry." I stood to leave. "Wait," Richard said. "I heard you're starting something new." I stopped. "I want in." "Absolutely not. I know I don't deserve it. But I have relationships, Vanessa. I have capital. I can help you. You threw me out of my own company. You backed David when you should have backed me. Why would I ever trust you again? Because I'm telling you right now, on the record, David lied to us. About the numbers. About you. About everything. And if I'd taken 5 minutes to actually investigate instead of just trusting him, I would have seen it. That's on me. And I want to make it right." I studied his face. He looked sincere. He also looked desperate. "I'll think about it," I said. I didn't trust him. But I filed the conversation away. Over the next month, things moved fast. The SEC investigation deepened. David was indicted on securities fraud charges. Melissa turned state's evidence. claiming she hadn't known about the full extent of the fraud, which was probably true. David had kept her just informed enough to be useful but not informed enough to be culpable. StratAI tried to recover. They brought in a crisis management firm, hired a new CFO, restructured their finances. But the damage was done. Their reputation was shot. Hospital systems that had been ready to sign contracts pulled back. Their stock, once valued at $800 million, was now worth maybe $100 million, if that. 3 of their biggest clients called me directly. "Vanessa, we heard you've started a new company." "I have. We'd like to hear about it." I pitched them on Clarity AI. Same core technology, cleaner implementation, better support, more transparent pricing. And most importantly, a leadership team they could trust. All 3 signed contracts within 2 weeks. By month 4, we had 8 clients. By month 6, 12. We were pulling in $8 million in annual recurring revenue, and we hadn't even launched our full platform yet. I raised a Series B. $50 million, led by Sarah's firm. Richard's firm came in as a small investor. I let him in, but only for 2%. Just enough to make him useful, not enough to give him any real power. At month 9, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Vanessa." It was David. "What do you want?" "I'm calling to apologize." I laughed. Actually laughed. "You're apologizing. I know it doesn't mean anything. I know I destroyed us. The company, our marriage, everything. But I wanted you to know. I'm sorry. You were right about all of it. Is this for your lawyer? Are you trying to get me to say something on record that helps your case?" "No. I've had a lot of time to think. And I realized I spent 12 years taking you for granted. You built that company as much as I did. More, probably. And I threw it all away because I was too arrogant to see what I had." I could hear real regret in his voice. Maybe even real pain. "I hope you find peace, David," I said. And I meant it. I wasn't angry anymore. I'd won. "Vanessa, wait. Can I ask you something?" "What?" "Did you know? When you reported me to the SEC, did you know it would destroy everything?" "Yes. And you did it anyway. You told me I was just the money person. Turns out, that's exactly what made me dangerous. I knew where all the bodies were buried. And I knew exactly how to make sure they came to light." I hung up. 2 weeks later, I got another call. This one from my mother. "Vanessa, honey. I saw the article in Forbes. About your new company. Did you? I'm so proud of you." "Really? Are you proud of me now? Or were you proud of me when you knew David was cheating on me and didn't say anything?" Silence. "I didn't know what to do," she said finally. I thought maybe it would blow over. I didn't want to hurt you. So you let me be humiliated instead. I'm sorry. So is David. Everyone's sorry now. Funny how that works. Vanessa, please. You're my daughter. I love you. I love you too, Mom. But I don't trust you. And I don't think I can have you in my life right now. I hung up. It hurt. But it also felt right. 1 year after I left StratAI, Clarity AI raised a Series C at a $500 million valuation. We had 40 employees, 25 clients, and a product that was genuinely better than anything else on the market. StratAI was acquired by a larger company for $75 million, a fraction of what it would have been worth. David's shares, which should have made him a $100 millionaire, ended up being worth about $8 million after legal fees and settlements. And most of that went to paying restitution and fines. My 2% of StratAI, which I'd sold back to the company as part of my severance, ended up being worth $1.5 million. Not nothing, but not life-changing. My 20% of Clarity AI, on the other hand, was worth $100 million. 18 months after founding the company, we filed for our own IPO. This time, the numbers were clean. The process was smooth. And when we rang the bell at NASDAQ, I had my sister standing next to me. Sarah was there. Marcus was there. Patricia was there. My team was there. The people who actually mattered. We opened at $22 per share. By the end of the day, we were at $31. Market cap, $1.2 billion. I got one more text from David that night. "Congratulations. You earned it." I deleted it without responding. 6 months later, I was sitting in that same corner booth at Bellini's, looking out at the city. I'd just come from a meeting with a potential acquisition target, a small AI imaging company with brilliant tech and terrible management. We were going to bring them in, give their team the resources they needed, and integrate their technology into our platform. My phone buzzed. A message from my lawyer. David's sentencing is tomorrow. Thought you should know. I sat there for a moment, thinking about everything that had happened. The betrayal, the anger, the cold calculation that had driven me to burn down a company I'd spent 12 years building. Would I do it again? Yes. In a heartbeat. Because David had been right about one thing. I was just the money person. I wasn't the visionary. I wasn't the brilliant coder. I wasn't the face of the company. I was the person who made sure there actually was a company. The person who understood that success isn't about having big ideas, it's about execution, relationships, and trust. And when you betray someone who controls all three of those things, you lose everything. I closed my laptop, paid my check, and walked out into the San Francisco evening. Tomorrow, I had meetings with 3 hospital systems that wanted to expand their contracts with us. Next month, we were launching in Europe. Next quarter, we were projecting $100 million in revenue. David would be sentenced to 4 years in federal prison. Melissa had gotten probation and community service. And me? I'd built something better. Something mine. Something that no one could ever take away from me. I smiled and hailed a cab. Once it's old, it's dead to me. David had been talking about our marriage. Our house. Our life together. I'd applied it to everything he'd built on my back. And I'd built an empire from the ashes.